Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and in today's video we're going to be focusing on counter-attacking. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be focusing on a counter-attacking drill where we're looking to hold the ball up, bring players into play, and then look to attack. But before we get into it, let's have a look at how many players we're working with this week and the equipment that we'll be using. Now, in terms of players this week, we're going to have 12 outfield players, okay, and we're going to have 2 goalkeepers in the session. But if you only have 1 goalkeeper, you can adapt it, okay, where you can have one side just attacking smaller sided goals, okay, or if you can get a coach or a parent or a volunteer to go in, that'd be great as well. So just adapt it to obviously what you've got to use. Now, in terms of the equipment, we're going to be focusing on using balls, bibs, and cones, pretty simple. And then if you need an area for goals, you can just use poles as well, okay? Just as obviously an adaptation if you don't have enough goals to use. Now, in terms of the setup for this part of the session here, okay? So the total depth here, you're going to want between 35 and 40 yards, okay, depending on the age group that you're working with as well. And again, with the width, you're going to go 30 yards of width. With these boxes, just 5 yards either side, can even be a little bit less if you wanted to as well. Now, you're going to start with 1 player from each team in the middle. Now, the coach can start either side. It doesn't really matter, okay? And what the coach is going to do, the coach is either going to play ball into a player's feet, okay, or they're going to play it in the air, or they're going to play it short, and then the players have got to race to get the ball. Now, once a player gets the ball, they look to secure it, okay, and then bring players into play. So once they've secured the ball, they get a player from each box to come in, so then it can become a 3v1. So then they can look to set the ball, create that space for the players to drive into. We get obviously options on the other side of the pitch as well, okay? And then we look to drive in towards goal and look to finish, okay? So make the most of receiving the ball, securing it, okay? And then getting numbers forward to attack. Now, if the goalkeeper saves it, okay, or this player wins it back, then their players can come in and it becomes a 3v3 then, okay? So then what we're looking for then is you're going to look for movement, okay, ahead of the ball to obviously receive it in behind and players being brave when they're attacking. As soon as the play is over, okay, the players move out, okay, and what you're going to do is you're just going to swap the players in the middle, okay, so another player can move out, another player can move out, and then we take another player out of here, okay, we reset, okay, coach gets the next ball and we go again. So this could be played in the air, okay. This player can obviously control it, let's say with the chest, and then they bring this player into play. Instantly, they could play, or they could use this as a decoy run. So this player might make the run, and as we turn to here to play it, this player might shift out, okay? And then we take a look behind us. We've got a player in space to play into, and then we look to finish. So that's when it stays 3v1. If the keeper saves and it stays in play, or the defender wins the ball, instantly they get support, okay? So a quick transition, okay? Can we react to go and support the attack quickly? So it's going to be 3v1s, or 3v3s. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Now moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now moving into our second counter-attacking drill. Now, this one's going to be 3v2 attacks, okay? And in terms of the setup for this part of the session, we're going to have 40 yards of depth, 30 yards of width, okay? And obviously you can look to adapt that again for the players that you have. Now, again, with the goals, if you only have 1 keeper, you can just attack one side if you wanted to, that's fine. So the way we have it set up here, okay, we're going to have 1 attack going one way, and then we're going to change to go the opposite way. You can just keep going the same side, and we can just start on opposite angles. Or obviously you can try and get a coach or a parent or a volunteer in. Then after a set time, the teams will swap over. So the players starting with the ball are going to be these players here, okay? Then the other players in attack are going to be here, 2 defenders there. Now these 3 defenders, okay, will be rotating, and then these 3 defenders will be rotating. So what's going to happen is the central player is going to start with the ball. They're going to look to attack space quickly, okay? they're going to look to attack as quick as they can, and then they get these players involved. So we're focusing on these players' movements, and we're going to get players running behind, going to make runs in between the defenders, okay? Can we get movement across as well? So we could get this player, as this player starts moving in centrally, can they move across here, okay? And then this player could stay wide, entices this player to stay out, or do they move in centrally, which leaves space, okay? So we've got to think about, we don't just want the players running in straight lines all the time. We might get success with it, okay? But also, can we look to penetrate through the middle as well? And can we look to use that overload to our advantage? So starting with that central player moving with the ball, okay? Let's then say we get this player moving in, but the player stays central, okay? This player can make the run there, stay wide, drive into the space, and finish. We're focusing on that route to goal as quick as we can. So if we score in the first pass, okay, pass and finish, perfect, okay? If it takes an extra pass, okay, or we have to take a player on, that's fine, as long as we keep it at a high intensity. The higher intensity we make it, okay, the harder it is for the defenders by keeping the ball moving. So it's either a player driving with the ball or moving the ball by passing it, okay? So try and make sure we play at a high intensity to make it more difficult for defenders. So again, let's say we make this run, this player moves out here, slid in, touch, finish. As soon as that's done, okay, this player will then look to drop out, okay? These players look to move out, okay? And these players get ready. Now, the next defenders will get themselves ready. So this player will move out, this player move out. These two players come in quickly, and then as soon as they're set up, we look to go again. So this player looks to drive in. So what you could see is this player could make a movement in here, okay? And at the last minute, they can pull back out, okay? Entice this player to come in, and then we can even get this player essentially driving him with the ball to finish. So again, once that's finished, these players look to drop out. These defenders look to drop out. These defenders look to drop in. This player's got the ball again, and then we look to go again. And you can even swap the sides that these go, different ends of the goal as well. Then after a set amount of repetitions, okay, per team, have a break, swap the players over, and then we go again, okay? And even if you wanted to as well, you could have, let's say, 3 reds, okay? And then you could have 3 blues attackers, okay? So you can change it up there. And then you could have 3 red defenders, okay? So these players will be waiting to defend, okay? And then these players waiting to attack. So that it could be reds attack, then blues attack, reds attack, then blues attack, and then swap the defenders and the attackers over after a set amount of time as well. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, now moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now focusing on a counter-attack and small-sided game. Now, in terms of the setup for this part of the session, so these 2 areas here are going to be between 18 and 20 yards. And then this area here is just going to be 15 yards, okay? So let's say 20, 20, 15, so 55 in total. Again, if you don't have that amount, we can just look to trim it down a little bit. So if you only have 1 goalkeeper for this part of the session, so the Blues, when they play through into here, could try and score on like a small-sided goal instead of trying to keep possession. Now, the 4 reds in the middle are going to stay in here until it transitions. This player in here will stay in here, this player will stay in here. Now these players can swap over, okay, as well. So what the reds are trying to do is when it's 3v1 or 4v1 with the goalie here, okay, we're just looking to block passes, okay, so this player doesn't need to go chasing after everything, okay. Trying to focus on blocking passes forward, okay, when the ball comes into here, look to shift across. They have to try and play through, so it can't go overhead. And then once the players try and play through to here, can we look to block, and then we look to transition. So the side that we win it off is the side we look to transition. So then we can have a 5v3, so we can get wide players attacking quickly. Can we get forward movements ahead of the ball to look to finish? So then, if the Blues manage to play through to this side, okay, we transition. Okay, for this player to go and close down, so you could close those angles off again. Thinking about our shape, okay, open it out, and then if we want it back here, we then go and transition to try and score in this goal to finish. So, like I say, if you only had 1 goalkeeper, okay, you could always try and score in this goal and try and stop the Blues playing through to score in a small-sided goal. Because they've got the 2 keepers, okay, we're going to let the Blues try and keep possession. Every time they switch it, they get a point. Then, after a set amount of goals, okay, that the Reds score on transition, the teams can swap over, okay, to give them a little bit of rest, and obviously you're trying to work with both teams. So there, when we win it back, can we focus on securing the ball, movement ahead of the ball to create space and receive it, and then attacking that space, okay? So can we look to attack vertically first, okay? Whether we drive into space, whether we pass forward, okay? Try and utilise that space that we have to penetrate, okay? You've got the overload, okay? So make sure we get some width, make sure we get players ahead of the ball, and then be confident driving in to then penetrate that space and look to score. And then the same on the opposite side. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to head over to our website where you can sign up to view all of our exclusive content. And we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.